In the hoary northern tundras dwell the children of the sky. Kine exhaled upon the throat of the world, and her rimy breath made men with fair hair, and a ferocity that burns bright through blustering blizzards. We may call them men, but to the fur-cloaked Imperials, huddled around their fireplaces, they are as strange as frost trolls, and the Nords consider themselves outsiders. The further north you go into Skyrim, the more powerful and elemental the people become. Those that live in the far wastes always carry a wind with them. Of course, time and familiarity has dispelled much of this mystique, but long ago in the older days, in the Malefic times and the First Era, the Northmen were much more in touch with the elements. Perhaps it was the waning influence of their primal totem gods, or their diminishing willingness to embrace the Storm Voice and listen to the wisdom of the clever men that changed them. Or maybe it was simply the steady and unequivocal passage of time that took the glamour out of the Nords. Whatever the truth may be, thousands of years ago, in those turbulent times when the Northmen warred with the Snow Elves and the Dwemer loomed beneath the snow-covered surface, great and powerful Nords walked Nirn. Foremost among these were the Tongues, who could wield breath as a weapon, harnessing shouts stronger than an iron-wrought battering ram. But one of Skyrim's most legendary figures wasn't blessed with the Storm Voice. He was a powerful mage, a clever man as the Nords would say, and myth follows him like a shadow at dusk. In the taverns of the Nine Holds, mead-drunk Northmen tell of a wizard who built Winterhold with a whisper, a sorcerer who stole the secret of life from Akatosh the Time Dragon, a battle mage who single-handedly fought an entire dwarven clan and came out unscathed. These are only a few of the tales of the famed warlock named Shalador. Hey guys, it's Drew here and welcome back to Fudge Muppet. If you've ever traipsed the snowy mountain slopes between Hjalmarch and Whiterun and beheld the archaic majesty of Labyrinthian, then the name Shalador may mean something to you. The hourglass-shaped maze nestled among these peaks was constructed to test new mages, and also to keep Glamoril, the secret of life, safe. But this is just one of Shalador's mysterious deeds, and in today's video, we're going to explore the life and accomplishments of Skyrim's greatest master of the arcane. Not many men can boast an enduring influence on Tamriel that transcends the eras, but Shalador is an exception. We know of Ysgramor's return, the songs of High King Wulfharth, and the meditations of Jurgen Windcaller, but arch-mage Shalador has earned a place among these heroes of old. Despite being born some 3,000 years earlier, around the beginning of the First Era, Shalador continued to make his will known on Nirn as late as the 582nd year of the Second Era. Exact dates are hard to come by when talking about his deeds in the Elder Days, but I'll do my best to chronicle Shalador's achievements roughly in chronological order. When Ysgramor and his mighty companions returned to the stony beaches of Skyrim, they reclaimed the city of Sarfall before spreading across the Mareth lands like a violent gale, tearing down the structures of the Falmer and replacing them with their own distinct architecture. When Ysgramor's son Ingol was claimed by the Sea of Ghosts, the bereaved Harbinger and his men constructed a barrow worthy of a king, so that Ingol's mortal body might rest peacefully as his soul made the voyage to the shores of Sovngarde. Ysgramor then ordered a great city should be built south of the cairn, so that Ysgramor could always see his son's final resting place from its walls. This city was Windhelm, and it quickly became the frosted heart of the Nordic Empire. But while Windhelm was the preeminent city in Skyrim, the hub of Nord society, there was another grand citadel in the northeast that emerged sometime in the subsequent years. This city was Winterhold. Ysgramor is famous for developing a runic transcription of Nord speech based on Elvish principles, leading him to be considered the first human historian. Despite this, information of Winterhold's founding is absent from the archives. The reality is, in the late Malefic and early First Eras, the Nords achieved so much that normally significant events were quickly overshadowed. There is, however, one rumour about how the city of Winterhold came to be. Some say the wizard Shalador built the city with a whispered spell, and that is all the information we have on the subject. This could be a conjured tale of a time where the borders of myth and reality are obscured. But at the same time, there are far more extraordinary stories of Nordic exploits from that time in Tamrielic lore. But even if this whispered spell is metaphorical, there's no denying the influence Shalador had on the city of Winterhold. Before the great collapse of 4th Era 122, Winterhold was a far more impressive sight to behold. Alas, anti-magic sentiment, or possibly apathy on the part of the contemporary locals, has seen little to no efforts to rebuild this once glorious city. While Windhelm and Solitude are generally seen as the most important Nordic cities in the past and present respectively, Winterhold was once the capital of the province, and was the birthplace of High King Borgus, the last ruler of the Nordic Empire, who died in 1st Era 369. We'll touch more on Shalador's role in Winterhold's history soon, and his pioneering of the arcane arts. But there is one major feat in the early 1st Era that is arguably more incredible and unbelievable than this whispered spell. In 1st Era 420, Shalador developed an interest in alchemy and the use of the Ignite spell on specific herbs. Hold on, I think I'm reading the wrong text. Sorry about that. In 1st Era 420, it is said that Shalador, after encountering the Dwemer chieftain Rorken, single-handedly fought the entire Rorken clan in battle as they made their exodus across Tamriel, from Resdain to Volenfell. The simple fact that Shalador wasn't killed in this conflict is a testament to his prowess, but little is known of the Battle of Rorken-Shalador. The most noteworthy part of it was the involvement of Periite's Daedric artifact Spellbreaker. According to the Elder Scrolls Arena, King Rorken, last of the Dwarven kings, had Spellbreaker fashioned for him in his war against the wizard Shalador. It was lost in the final battle, and from time to time has reappeared in the land. So it would be fair to assume that the very existence of this artifact was to counter the power of Shalador's sorceries. Spellbreaker has the ability to not only ward against magicka, but also to reflect spells back on the attacker. I believe King Rorken may well have forged this tower shield as an imitation of one of Shalador's own spells. A potent form of the Reflect mysticism spell is known as Shalador's Mirror, and even the wizard himself claimed to have bore his spell mirror into battle. His phrasing is interesting because to me, the use of the word bore suggests bearing a physical object. You bear arms, but do you bear spells? I would consider spells to be more intangible. It's almost as if he's asserting that Spellbreaker was his own shield. I know there's not much to go on there, but it's interesting food for thought. Perhaps he worked with the Rorken clan to forge it, and animosity arose over who should wield it. This possibility sheds a new light on Yagran Bagan's comment in his book on Tamrielic artifacts. Bagan wrote, "It is said that Spellbreaker still searches for its original owner, and will not remain the property of anyone else for long. But then again, it may simply be a case of poetic phrasing on Shalador's part." When he wasn't warring with legions of dwarves, Shalador was endeavouring to enact higher standards among the clever men of Skyrim, and mages Tamriel-wide. In fact, there are claims that Shalador stood at the forefront of this movement, which makes sense considering the other famous name associated with this effort is Vanus Galerian, a former Psijic who founded the Mages Guild in the early 2nd Era. While Galerian's deeds were pivotal in the evolution of magic use on Tamriel, he was born thousands of years after Shalador. Shalador discouraged spell use among the common castes, and believed that the price of wielding such stark powers was a formal education in the responsible use of magic, guided by master mages. Shalador saw the destructive potential in the unchecked use of magicka, and believed that prospective mages should be devoted to understanding the art and committed to casting wisely. This belief led to the foundation of the College of Winterhold, where novices could be guided by Shalador on the path to mastery. As with many of Shalador's accomplishments, there is no direct evidence confirming that the college was established by Shalador, as the college doesn't hold any documents dating prior to the late 2nd Era. However, Shalador is widely known to be the first wizard ever to go by the title of arch-mage, even though the Mages Guild wasn't founded until millennia later. Also, Mirabel Irvine, a master at the College of Winterhold in 4th Era 201, states that the College of Winterhold has been a fixture in Skyrim for thousands of years. Unless this is hyperbole, thousands of years would date the college back to the 1st Era. I'm inclined to believe Shalador did start the College of Winterhold for a couple of reasons. The The first is that, if Skyrim's College of Magic was established after the Mages Guild, and was thus a subsidiary of the guild, then I highly doubt it would be situated in the most inhospitable region of this notoriously inhospitable province. The College of Winterhold attracts wizards of all races and cultures, and such a cosmopolitan institution would be much better suited to Falkreath, or Riften, or Markarth. Winterhold is a frozen tundra, suited to the children of the sky, and its eponymous city is closely associated with Shalador. Secondly, Shalador is famous for establishing schools and sanctuaries that are confirmed in the lore and histories. One such example is in the ruins of the dragon capital, Bromgenar. When Skyrim was ruled by the dragon cult, the Nords built this grand temple in honour of their draconic overlords. The Dragon War saw the end of the cult's influence, and Bromgenar faded into the pages of history. It wasn't until arch-mage Shalador ventured into the mountains and formulated the schematics for his great maze that the commonly known name of Labyrinthian entered the Nordic vernacular. Shalador chose this remote and hostile environment, where frost trolls patrolled the snows, and Draugr roamed the abandoned halls, to be the home of his labyrinth. This strange hourglass-shaped maze was constructed for multiple purposes, but the first and most evident of these was to test the resolve of prospective mages. The first part of the test was merely to track down the labyrinth, hidden amidst the crumbling ruins of ages past. Those who survived the journey were faced with even greater dangers. Shalador designed his maze to test both academic knowledge and practical skill. The student is given one instruction before entering. Enter twice, exit only once. Alteration will lead you to destruction. Only illusion shows the way to restoration. Conjure not, but be conjured instead. Should the student pass the sigils of each magical school, they will be faced with the trial of conjuration, where they are confronted by Dwemer and Daedric Atronachs. Only after defeating these foes is the test passed. Unfortunately, the reward for completion isn't clear. In Shalador's days, the reward would have been the Archmage's favour. The book titled A Minor Maze says, "We can only guess at what the solution to the test may have been, as Labyrinthian became notorious not only for the number of potential Archmages who died there, but for the intense secrecy of those who succeeded. Labyrinthian eventually ceased to be used, and is regarded as a symbol of a more brutal age by modern institutions for magical studies. The ruins lay empty again, overrun with wild animals and avoided by travellers. The long history and legacy of this place, however, seems as likely to be erased from our minds, as the ruins themselves are likely to sink into the sea. The true secret purpose of Shalador's maze is something we'll speak more on soon. Another example of Shalador's magical institutions is the Mage Sanctuary located on the outlying island of Ivea to the west of Somerset. Sometime in the First Era, Shalador exchanged some unnamed arcane artifacts with the High Elves for possession of the island. To return briefly to an earlier point, it's fairly clear that Shalador lived by his principle of pushing higher standards among mages. He backed up this belief by providing the means for novices to responsibly acquire the skills necessary to become masters. There is a pervasive sentiment that Shalador's achievements were wrongly attributed to him, or that they have been confused with those of Vanis Galerian. But it seems clear to me that both wizards had similar ambitions. Vanis Galerian took issue with the isolationist attitudes of the Sigic Order, and believed that it was the duty of those with wisdom to bestow their knowledge upon the public. Shalador differed in that he supposedly discouraged spell use among the masses, but in practice, both of their goals were to increase the number of qualified mages, as opposed to preserving the arts for a select enlightened few. Thus, when Vanis Galerian founded the Mages Guild, he did so on the foundations set in place thousands of years prior by Shalador. Through this lens, Shalador can be seen as a mentor to Galerian. There's a loading screen in ESO which reads, "Shalador may not have been the first wizard to call himself Archmage, but history records him as such. When Vanis Galerian founded the Mages Guild, he declared the High Guildmaster's title would be Archmage to honour the memory of Shalador." There are some certainties in Tamrielic history. One is that swaggering braggarts will find their ugly red heads rolling around on the floor. Another is that where there are great mortals, the gods are always close at hand. Shalador had made a name for himself, and the Daedra Lord of Madness, Sheogorath, began snooping around. The Mad God offered Shalador an enticing bargain. If the wizard gave the prince ownership of Ivea, then he could have one of Sheogorath's most mysterious and elusive Daedric artifacts, the Folium Discognitum. Doubtless Shalador hoped to gain otherworldly insights from the tome, but in truth, this book is not legible to mortal eyes. Some say the book is a compilation of ramblings from the maddest men in the Shivering Isles. Others would have you believe that the scrawlings are nigh incomprehensible, and to make matters worse, the words move sporadically to avoid the gaze of the reader. Shalador soon came to regret the trade, and even after death endeavoured, with the aid of the vestige, to reclaim the Isle of Ivea from Sheogorath. Eventually the island was restored to Shalador, who gave it to the Mages Guild, so that it may once again serve as a sanctuary for mages, and a place of magical learning. When his spirit returned to Tamriel in Second Era 582, Shalador said the following to his champion: "I have returned to protect my legacy. While this guild was after my time, I accomplished much in Tamriel. I founded schools of magic, oversaw the construction of the Great Maze, and bore my spell mirror into battle. I laid powerful enchantments on my final resting place. When my legacy is threatened, I am drawn back from Aetherius." This is not something most souls can do. When a mortal dies, their soul travels to their respective afterlife, or returns to the dream sleeve. But it seems Shalador preserved the ability to cross the liminal barrier between Aetherius and Mundus. But how? The answer to this is Shalador's greatest mystery, and his greatest achievement: Glamoril. Shalador's spirit says, "I began to work on a powerful artifact, a key to the inner workings of life itself, Glamoril." And that is all we can gather from the man directly. Rhea Silmain, the apprentice of Jaegafan, elaborates. There was once a great maze, built by the arch-mage Shalador to guard what he called Glamoril, the elven term for the secret of life. The text A Minor Maze offers an even smaller insight, adding that this secret of life was stolen from Akatosh. These clues reveal the secret purpose of the labyrinth, and it seems that if Shalador's artifact, the key to Glamoril, does exist at the true end of the maze, then it has never been discovered by another mortal. It's impossible to know what Shalador would have been capable of with the secret of life. Urag Groshub calls Shalador an immensely powerful wizard, with an understanding of magic few have ever matched. In my opinion, it's no coincidence that Shalador chose Bromjanar as the site for his maze. He travelled to the ancient capital of dragon-ruled Skyrim to hide the secret of life, a secret which he stole from the time dragon Akatosh himself. Shalador's ability to manifest in Tamriel thousands of years after his death must be connected to his knowledge of Glamoril. Perhaps he unravelled the mysteries of time manipulation and learned the power to cross the thresholds of the Orbis at will. His mortal body might have been laid to rest, but it seems his soul reached a level of enlightened freedom akin to Kim, extricating himself from the decaying influence of time and the cycle of life and rebirth. His soul has not been recycled in the dream sleeve, for Shalador endures, timeless. The full extent of Glamoril remains unknown, and it seems Shalador wished to keep it this way. But I highly doubt this is the last we'll hear of this legendary wizard in the Elder Scrolls. And there you have it, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. My name is Drew, you've been watching Fudge Muppet, and I'll see you in the next one.